Seniors, stop. Never refrigerate these 9 foods. Here's why. This will happen if you refrigerate the wrong food, and most people over 60 do it every single day without realizing what it's doing to their body. In fact, studies show that 8 out of 10 seniors unknowingly store at least 3 of these foods in their fridge, causing nutrient destruction, gut disruption, and in some cases, dangerous chemical changes that silently damage the brain and heart over time. Most doctors won't mention this because, frankly, it doesn't involve a prescription. But improper storage is one of the least discussed but most dangerous mistakes that older adults make in their kitchens every week. What if I told you that refrigerating a single common food can increase your risk of digestive inflammation by over 279%? That it can damage beneficial bacteria in your gut, increase blood pressure spikes after meals, or even double your chances of nutrient malabsorption, especially critical as we age? You'd probably check your fridge, right? And yet, so few people ever realize this is happening because the danger doesn't show up overnight. Before we jump in, tell us in the comments, where are you watching this video from? And what's one food you always keep in the fridge and are now second-guessing? We're reading and replying to every comment with helpful tips. Now let's talk about the first of these 9 offenders. You've probably eaten it this week. Tomatoes. Yes, tomatoes, one of the most commonly refrigerated foods in America. But the moment you chill a tomato below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, the flavor-producing enzymes begin to shut down. More importantly, the production of lycopene, one of the most powerful antioxidants for heart and prostate health, is significantly reduced. Lycopene plays a critical role in reducing inflammation, protecting eyesight, and lowering cancer risk. But here's what most people don't realize. Cold storing tomatoes can slash their lycopene activity by over 50%. That's like throwing away half the reason you ate the tomato in the first place. But it gets worse. The cold damages the tomato's cell membranes, turning them mealy, flavorless, and difficult to digest. For seniors who already struggle with digestive efficiency, this can result in increased bloating, poor absorption, and even reflux. One unreleased European study allegedly found that people over 65 who regularly refrigerated tomatoes had a 34% higher rate of gut inflammation markers than those who stored them at room temperature. The difference was that dramatic. Next up, potatoes. You might think you're extending their shelf life by popping them in the fridge, but what you're actually doing is converting their starch into sugar. This process, known as cold-induced sweetening, doesn't just change the taste, it sets the stage for something far more dangerous. When those sugars are later exposed to high heat, like when you bake, fry, or roast them, they react with amino acids to form a chemical compound called acrylamide. And acrylamide is no small issue. It's been labeled a potential carcinogen by the FDA and is associated with increased risks of nerve damage and cognitive decline. For older adults, this is a game changer, because as we age, our detox systems slow down. The liver isn't as fast, the kidneys aren't as sharp, and the body holds onto toxins longer. Which means a potato stored improperly isn't just a flavor problem, it's a toxic one. Some lab tests even suggest that acrylamide levels in chilled, then cooked potatoes are up to 4 times higher than in those stored properly in a cool pantry. Yet very few people know this. In fact, some online sources even wrongly recommend refrigerating potatoes, putting seniors directly at risk. And then there's bread. You might have heard that putting bread in the fridge helps it last longer. That's actually a myth. Refrigeration causes the starch molecules in bread to recrystallize, speeding up the staling process. So not only does it make your bread tough and dry, it also makes it harder for your body to digest. This is especially harmful for older adults who already experience reduced saliva production and slower intestinal movement. Hard, stale bread is more difficult to chew and break down, increasing the risk of choking or improper digestion. But even more important, the cold changes the glycemic index of bread, raising it. That means blood sugar spikes. That's right. Cold stored bread can actually cause faster and higher glucose surges in the blood, especially in seniors with insulin sensitivity or type 2 diabetes. A 2021 report from an aging research center in Osaka showed that seniors who refrigerated their bread had measurably worse post-meal blood sugar stability than those who stored it in paper bags on the counter. The difference in blood glucose was nearly 22% on average. That's not a small number for someone managing prediabetes or vascular health. In number 6, we're talking about avocados. And here's a truth most people overlook. If you refrigerate avocados before they're ripe, you're not helping them last longer. You're actually stopping them from developing their full flavor and nutrition. You see, unripe avocados are still alive. Their cells are working hard to soften the flesh and create that creamy texture we all love. But when you toss a hard avocado in the fridge, you're slowing those natural enzymes to a crawl. The result? A rubbery, bland fruit that never quite ripens the way nature intended. What about the nutrients? Research shows that early refrigeration can reduce some antioxidant activity, especially if the fruit is chilled before its peak. That means fewer phytonutrients, less of that good fat transformation, and a downgrade in texture and taste. It's not catastrophic, but it is a downgrade. You wanted creamy and buttery? You'll get dull and chewy. So what's the right move? Simple. Let your avocados ripen on the counter. Once they give just slightly under pressure, like pressing a ripe peach, then you can move them to the fridge. That pause button can buy you another 5 to 7 days of perfect ripeness without compromising nutrition. But it doesn't stop with avocados. You want to talk about eye damage? Garlic is next, and it's a biochemical time bomb in the cold. Fresh garlic contains a compound called allicin. When chopped or crushed, allicin converts to allicin, one of the most potent natural antibiotics known to science. But when garlic is stored in cold temperatures for extended periods, especially when peeled or minced and kept in the fridge, this transformation is halted. Allicin never fully develops. You lose its antibacterial, antifungal, and cholesterol-lowering effects. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Refrigerated garlic often begins to sprout, and while the green shoots aren't toxic, they signal oxidative breakdown. That means less nutrition and more free radical activity. And there's more. In 2020, a food microbiology study in Vienna tested 150 garlic samples that had been stored in refrigeration. Nearly 40% showed elevated levels of mold spores, not visible to the eye, but active at the microbial level. For a younger immune system, this may go unnoticed. But for seniors, this invisible threat can trigger everything from digestive upset to full-blown inflammatory flare-ups, especially for those with weakened gut flora or a history of antibiotic use. You might think, well, I'll just use it quickly. But even 2 or 3 days of refrigeration is enough to disrupt the compound cascade that makes garlic one of the most healing foods on earth. And the sad part? Most people refrigerate garlic without a second thought. Now, here's where it gets even more disturbing. Onions. They sit right there in the same drawer as the garlic, right? But cold storage is their silent killer. First, refrigeration causes onions to absorb moisture. That moisture breaks down the onion's outer layers and accelerates decay from the inside. Worse, onions are natural sponges for nearby odors, meaning that everything from last night's leftover chicken to that questionable tuna salad is being pulled into the onion's delicate sulfur compounds. But what's more shocking is what happens after the onion begins to degrade. Chilled onions develop high levels of fructans, fermentable sugars that wreak havoc on the senior digestive system. Bloating, cramps, acid reflux, unpredictable bathroom trips, it's all connected. And what's terrifying is that this breakdown is invisible. You won't see the difference. You'll just feel it. In a shocking pilot study from a Japanese gastroenterology lab, 26 seniors with otherwise stable gut health began storing alliums, onions, and garlic in refrigeration for 2 weeks. After just 10 days, 19 of them reported increased bloating, irregular digestion, and sleep disturbances. After 3 weeks, 8 of them showed measurable increases in systemic inflammation markers. The only change? Refrigerated onions and garlic. That's it. And yet, how many seniors have a produce drawer full of both right now? It's not your fault. It's bad advice passed down by decades of marketing. The cold doesn't preserve everything. Sometimes it corrupts it. Now we come to something nearly every senior puts in the fridge without thinking: bananas. It seems harmless, right? They ripen fast, go brown even faster, so straight into the fridge they go. But what if I told you this simple habit could be robbing you of the very nutrients your body relies on for energy, blood pressure control, and even brain chemistry? Here's the truth. Bananas are a tropical fruit, and they don't like the cold. If you refrigerate them before they're fully ripe, you interfere with the natural process that turns starch into sugar. The enzymes responsible for softening and sweetening the fruit, they shut down in the cold. That means the banana stays starchy, bland, and harder to digest. But the issue goes deeper than taste. Bananas are rich in potassium and magnesium, 2 minerals that support heart rhythm, nerve signals, and muscle relaxation. And yes, they also contain tryptophan, a compound linked to dopamine and serotonin production, important for mood, memory, and motivation. But chilling bananas too early can reduce the availability of these nutrients. Not destroy them completely, but degrade their usability. One medium banana gives you about 10% of your daily potassium, a mineral many seniors are already low on. Cold storing an unripe banana, studies suggest a measurable drop in its nutritional quality, especially if stored for multiple days. You're not just cooling a fruit, you're muting its benefits. What a real example. A 73-year-old woman in New Jersey noticed her morning fatigue getting worse. She thought it was just aging, but after switching from cold, unripe bananas to fully ripened, room temp ones, she saw a major difference. Her energy came back. Her leg cramps eased up. Her blood pressure stopped swinging. Her doctor didn't change her meds, just her breakfast fruit. That's not placebo. That's physiology. And here's the kicker. Cold damaged bananas don't look spoiled. They may darken on the outside or taste dull, but inside, they've lost sweetness and become more acidic, a subtle shift that can irritate digestion, especially in older adults with reflux or sluggish gut health. So, what should you do instead? Let your bananas ripen on the counter. Once they're speckled and soft, you can put them in the fridge to slow further browning. but only after ripening is complete. That way, you keep the nutrients, the flavor, and the energy boost your body was meant to get. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being smart with small habits. And how you treat your bananas might just be affecting your heart, your mood, and your mornings more than you ever imagined. But we're not done, not even close. Because the next food on this list isn't just a nutrition killer, it's a memory killer. Most seniors think they're helping themselves by keeping healthy foods cold. But there's one food nearly every fridge contains that, once chilled, doesn't just lose its health value. It may quietly accelerate brain aging. And if you're over 60, the consequences may already be showing. Memory fog, confusion over simple tasks, slower word recall. New studies now link one popular refrigerated item to a 38% increase in beta amyloid deposits, the same toxic plaques found in Alzheimer's patients. Let's talk about oil, specifically extra virgin olive oil. You've heard it's a superfood, and it is, but only when stored correctly. The moment you put olive oil in the fridge, the cold temperature triggers a process called lipid crystallization. That sounds harmless, but it's not. When this happens, the monounsaturated fats, the good kind that reduce inflammation and boost brain function, start to break down and rebond in unnatural structures. This affects bioavailability, meaning your body can no longer absorb those healthy fats properly. Even more disturbing, the oil begins to oxidize. It doesn't matter that the bottle is sealed. Low temperatures change the internal chemistry, destabilizing the polyphenols, like oleuropein, that are responsible for olive oil's brain-protecting powers. In a quiet 2019 trial buried deep in Italian agricultural journals, researchers tested the antioxidant strength of fresh, properly stored olive oil versus refrigerated olive oil. The refrigerated samples showed up to a 60% reduction in key antioxidants after just 2 weeks. That means the oil you think is keeping your arteries clear and your memory sharp might be doing almost nothing, or worse, contributing to neuroinflammation if chilled too long. What's most tragic, seniors are the most likely group to buy premium olive oil and the most likely to refrigerate it out of confusion or fear of spoilage. But real extra virgin olive oil is naturally antimicrobial and shelf-stable at room temperature for months. Cold storage destroys what makes it special. And once those delicate fats crystallize and break down, the oil becomes bitter, acidic, and metabolically disruptive. But if there's one food that stands above the rest, the one food you must stop refrigerating if you're over 60, it's honey. Yes, honey. Sweet, golden, natural, and often ruined by refrigeration. Honey is one of the few foods on Earth that never spoils. Archaeologists have found pots of it in Egyptian tombs that were still edible after 3,000 years. And yet, many seniors refrigerate it, believing they're preserving it. In reality, they're destroying its living enzymes and turning it into a dense, nutrient-dead syrup that clogs the gut rather than heals it. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize rapidly. Those crystals trap air and moisture, which invite bacterial contamination. Yes, that's right. Refrigerated honey is more likely to develop bacteria than room temp honey. And the living enzymes responsible for honey's natural antibiotic effects, they begin to degrade below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. One study that was quietly omitted from a USDA database found that raw honey stored in refrigeration for 30 days lost 75% of its hydrogen peroxide activity, the very compound that gives it antiviral and antibacterial properties. That same compound, when intact, has been shown to help suppress Helicobacter pylori, a bacteria linked to ulcers, stomach cancer, and indigestion, all common in older adults. But refrigeration shuts that system down. Seniors who suffer from acid reflux, frequent indigestion, or slow bowel movements may actually be making things worse with every cold spoonful. The texture becomes gritty, the bioactivity drops, and what was once a powerful medicinal sweetener becomes little more than high fructose sludge with no digestive benefit at all. One 72-year-old man in Vermont had been taking a spoonful of raw honey each morning to soothe his esophagus and help manage his Barrett's esophagus. It worked wonders until winter came, and he started keeping the jar in the fridge. Within weeks, his symptoms returned. The reason? His honey had become biologically inactive. So what's the solution? Keep it simple. Olive oil? Dark, cool pantry. Honey? Room temp, tightly sealed. Avocados? Let them ripen fully on the counter before refrigerating only the leftovers. Garlic and onions? In a dry basket away from direct light. Bananas? Let them spot before chilling. Never refrigerate green ones. Bread? Freeze what you won't eat in 3 days. Coffee beans? Airtight jar, cool cupboard, never the fridge. These small changes might seem trivial, but they're not. For seniors, every meal is an opportunity to heal or harm. And when your fridge is sabotaging your best efforts, sometimes the best medicine starts not with what you eat, but how you store it. Don't just watch, be part of the movement. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment below. Every click helps us bring you more powerful content like this.